And joining us now on News Across Nigeria is the Commissioner for Information at Delta State, Charles Enyago, who joins us from Asaba, the Delta State capital. Thank you for joining us on the program News Across Nigeria. Give us an update of the flood situation in the state as we speak.
Well, I can tell you that it has not been funny. About 19 local government out of the 25 local government areas in the state have been largely submerged. That is just to say that the other 6 are entirely free. We still have issues of flooding in some communities, just that those 6 are better off. But for these other 19 local governments, we have also been able to set up as much as 10 camps plus 1. I use the word plus 1 because there is one that is not entirely a camp, but we are still sending relief materials to individuals in some of those communities. There are some communities that will not want to come to the camps because, of course, that the area is an area they see as their ancestral home. Those areas will also try as much as possible to send relief materials to them, even while they are not in camps. And so we are hoping, just like the governor has called members of the communities and the private sector individuals to see how they can also come to the aid of these persons in camps. The state government is doing a whole lot, but what we are saying, what has helped us so far not to be able to record the casualties as it is in other states is that we started our sensitization on time. The State Bureau of Orientation has been very busy in the last 3 months, making it known to the people that this flood will come based on the advisory that we got from the Meteorological Agency. And so that has helped a number of persons moving away from those communities that have been submerged. Otherwise, perhaps it could have been worse than what it is now. But the situation is still very, very terrible. We do hope that as we make progress, the federal government, just like the governor have also called in the course of that his visit, should come to take steps to address this issue of flooding by seeing how the River Niger and the Benue could be dredged to reduce the issue of siltation. And then, of course, how we can also have a possible creation of a dam in 1 or 2 places that could, of course, help to contain some of this water whenever it's either released from the Lado Dam in Cameroon, or whenever it happens that the rain may have fallen much more than expected. So that at the end of the day, we do not continue to go through this perennial crisis of flooding of different communities.
All right, so you of course, you did allude to the fact that the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, has already asked for support from well-meaning Nigerians, particularly people from Delta State and, of course, the private sector, like you talked about. Now, we just want to find out how many people are currently displaced, because, you know, before these relief materials or this support that we want to get from people across the board gets to them, they'll definitely need assurances that, you know, they're actually meeting the needs of the people and the actual number.
Well, if you're asking about that number, you can only be talking about the number and the camp. You can't easily put a number to those who are displaced, because there are a number of individuals who, because of our communal spirit, may have moved to the houses of their loved ones. But in terms of the camps, we have well over 20,000 persons as at a few days ago. You also do know that almost on daily basis, because the flood is still continuing, you still have more number of persons trooping to the camps. So the number had gone beyond 20-something thousand at the moment. But if you are talking about displacement, it's well over 60,000, because if you look at the number of individuals who live in these different communities, those who, because of communal spirit, like I said earlier, have moved to the houses of their brothers and sisters, or may have also moved elsewhere without having to come to the camp. The only disturbing thing is that their farmlands have also been submerged. There are individuals who would have loved to find one way or the other to harvest a number of the crops they have in these farmlands, even when they are not mature. We saw such instances, particularly those who may have grown cassava. Even when it's not mature, they try to salvage the little they can. But of course, you know what that means. It means they are not able to realize whatever output they should have been able to realize on account of their labor. But what is happening now is that our people have tried as much as possible to show love to their loved ones. We must appreciate those who have been able to bring some relief materials to individuals in camp. The state government is also continuing in that direction, led by State Emergency Management Agency. We also have a camp commandant in each of the camps. We try as much as possible to provide some level of electricity so that the environment will also be powered, in addition to a number of other things that could make the camp very much livable. Of course, you can't compare the camp to the homes of these individuals, particularly this rainy season. You saw the governor a while ago having to also transverse these areas, even while it was raining, to be able to see a number of our people who have been displaced on account of this very disturbing flood.
So what exactly are the needs of the people at this point? I mean, what indeed is the state government doing to help them, the flood victims? You know, what are their needs actually, apart from, you know,
well,
perhaps food?
Generally, these are individuals just like you and I. They need food because they are no longer in their comfort zones. They will need beddings, which we have also, as a state government, been able to provide lightly. They need some other toiletries, which the state government have also tried to provide. But of course, you know that the needs are quite enormous, which is why we have also reached out to private persons to see what they can do, religious bodies, how they can also become their brother's keeper. You also, of course, do know that beyond even issue of food, these are individuals who will also need clothing. There are small children in those places. We have tried as much as possible to also provide some environment where they could also study for the children who are in school, particularly primary school and secondary school pupils, so that at the end of the day, their academic calendar is not terribly affected. What we did in that instance is to see how we can do some form of measure to have the teachers in some of those schools come to some of the schools upland. But you, of course, you do know that once you leave your comfort zone and possibly move to some kilometers or hundreds of meters away from where you live, it cannot be the same because there are a lot of facilities you may be enjoying in your homes. Some of these houses are not just, they are not thatch houses. These are well-built houses where they may be living under very wonderful comfort. But no matter how much you put in terms of the camp, you cannot have that kind of comfort. So all those things that could make people live in a much more livable environment are some of the needs that they do desire. Even when we have tried to power these camps with generator, of course, you know, we are not going to be able to provide them refrigerators and so many others that they may need, which they will have in their homes. We may not be in a position to also provide them things like television for them to be able to have that comfort. At this moment,
Commissioner for Information.
That's why we're providing them food and other things.
All right, Commissioner for Information, Delta State, Charles Aniagowe, thank you so much for your thoughts on the program News Across Nigeria.
Thanks for having me.